Legends of Lore. All right, everyone, welcome to the Legends of Lore broadcast. I'm Joe Manuola.
And I'm Shirley Singleton.
And we are
the Legends
of
Lore.
Okay. So this is episode 8, season 3 of Star Trek Picard, Surrender.
Yeah. It plays out, I think it's aptly named because, it did kind of feel that way at times.
Yeah, there was a lot of action in this, but also a lot of tension and suspense. Even it felt probably more action-packed than it really was. It definitely moved by very fast.
Right, it was pretty tight.
Yeah, do you know if this episode was shorter? Because it felt like there was just, very fast-paced.
Not really sure, but, it was very to the point. I liked it.
Yeah, a lot got done in this episode. Once again, this is an episode that could have felt like maybe a last episode.
Yeah, it was definitely had that build up in that kind of climactic, situation. But yeah.
Definitely, because almost the whole point of the previous episode was to set this up, really. Where, I was a little critical of how Vadic so easily took over a Federation starship, but they definitely paid off that. You can almost forgive them rushing that a little bit just because this was pretty satisfying the way that this all played out.
Yeah, most definitely.
And they definitely did a lot to set the stage and set the atmosphere that this is now an occupied Federation ship. This is now an enemy ran hostile operated starship.
Right, yeah. It's definitely been taken over. It's been compromised.
Yeah, and those people left have a siege mentality.
Yes, most definitely.
And Vadic's haunting little monologue at the beginning was effective. At first I didn't really like Vadic as a character, but she's grown on me a little bit. I think this is probably her best. In terms of her acting and being really creepy, this is probably her at her heights.
Yeah, the whole 3 blind mice thing and her lighting up a fatty on the bridge and then
she gets into all she does all
later,
she does all kinds of crazy stuff later.
Yeah.
So we kind of set the tone there, and it is very much moves into kind of the siege mentality. Parts of the ship are controlled by the changelings. Parts of the ship are still controlled by Starfleet, and it's a tense situation to say the least. There's active, combat going on in the corridors, and Jack, he uses his special warging powers. If you guys know that reference, to jump into a different Star Trek, Starfleet officer or some kind of security official, in the middle of the battle. What do you think about that?
I thought it was interesting in that he was, I mean, he when the guy got shot, he was jolted back in his body. That was kind of weird. That was kind of interesting.
Right, and I mean the dark corridor, finding the dead bodies and people cowering, very much reminiscent of a horror story, or even kind of remind me of a first person horror video game, or Doom or something, maybe Doom 3. I don't know.
Yeah, they do a lot of I guess it was more of a horror episode.
Definitely had those elements, definitely some horrific stuff that happened. So, after that scene, Jack just, he feels like he can't just play coy anymore. He has a responsibility, right? He has to do something.
Yeah, so he kind of he comes out to his mom and dad,
It's not an easy conversation.
I got something to tell you, man, And what I thought was funny about that scene was that, Beverly immediately whipped out a tricorder and started scanning him.
Right.
It's obviously he's hallucinating. He's having delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, something that's her. You know what? That's her insert everything. Everything could be just scanned and figured out. And like we talked about earlier, this was probably the actress who plays Vadic's finest hour, because she has this scene where she's just basically trying to get them to turn over Jack by threatening to kill crew members, and she definitely comes off as very, very creepy.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I was thinking to myself, man, I would not want to be in that situation.
Yeah, like I wasn't super stoked with like some of her acting when it was just her by herself, or like maybe her surrounded by a bunch of people in masks or in full costumes. But when she has really good actors to play off of, she definitely, I feel like she's much more convincing as a antagonist.
Yeah, Amanda Plummer is great. I mean, she's great for those roles where she's very convincing as a murderess.
Yeah, she definitely she has that going for her.
Yeah.
And she ends up actually phasing one of the members of the crew, the bald Vulcan that we had noted.
Yeah, she was like part what Venuvian or whatever that from like I think Savak was and part Vulcan.
Wow.
Yeah. She was like a hybrid race.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Did not know that. And it's kind of a background character, but a very visually appealing character, and definitely one that everyone has taken note of, despite only being in a handful of episodes.
Yeah, she was a lot of fan favorites of the bridge crew.
Definitely. And then later on we move into them examining Picard's body. Like they say that they have taken part of his brain.
Yeah, that whole Picard body thing, that was kind of weird because he was like super buff for like a 90-year-old dude because he was supposed to be in his 90s when he died and he looked extremely fit.
Yeah, he definitely did. I guess it's just a testament to Patrick Stewart's discipline. What I'm questioning is like, where's this stuff going? This story, this subplot about them using Picard's body as a weapon. We've already surmised that, yeah, they're trying to make a duplicate because they need to do something to get it through security for Fleet Day. I get that, but what's up with them taking part of his brain? Is the part infected with the aromatic syndrome? Any theories?
I mean, I don't know, like aromatic syndrome. What exactly does it do? I mean, it's supposed to make you live in like a fantasy world or something, right? Or possibly go through time to other realities, to future past realities. I mean,
So the whole aromatic syndrome thing was started in season 1, right?
right.
We maybe
Well,
need to
no, it's from All Good Things. He
Okay.
was diagnosed with aromatic syndrome then, and
Oh,
then from season one of Picard, his doctor from the Stargazer shows up, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's getting worse,"
right, right. So all good things. That's the last episode, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Wow. So this is an interesting thing. I think maybe watching that episode and watching season 1 of Picard may be in order just so we can get a better understanding. But who knows? They may very well not, just make up their own stuff from this point forward. But still, it would be pretty interesting to get a better, retrospective on the whole aromatic syndrome.
yeah. I mean, because like what they're saying is that it's not aromatic syndrome; it just looks like aromatic syndrome. So I was just wondering, what exactly were the? I mean, I guess we could go to Memory Alpha
Yeah.
and check out and see what they have for what exactly is
Yeah, and
aromatic
please
syndrome.
post in the comments with y'all's insights about aromatic syndrome. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Vatic. Okay, so we have Jack actually deciding that he can't just sit there anymore. They have to come up with an idea.
Right.
So Picard and crushers of all kinds, they're not always known for coming up with plans.
Yep.
They came up with a plan.
Yep.
And it turns out that they're going to play a little bit of a game of chicken with Miss Vatic. With what appears to be a grenade of some kinds, but we'll figure out more on that later. This is another scene stealing, situation where Vatic is just talking to Jack about all the different questions that he has, all the weird things that have been going on with him, speaking to him about voices and doors, and just very, very cryptic stuff.
Yeah, that's once he gets to the bridge. Yeah.
Right.
Um yeah, the yeah, totally.
So Jack, yeah, he definitely is there to try to retake the bridge by any means necessary, and he's holding himself hostage with what appears to be a grenade. Because if Vatic isn't threatened by his explosives, if he blows himself up, Vatic loses her mission.
That's true. That's very true. The what got me about that was that the computer said that it was an unknown device, you know. So I'm wondering, how did they get the computer to? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm just curious as to how what's you know, what are the parameters around that? But that's just me.
Yeah, I thought about that too because it's definitely a situation where you gotta believe that the bridge is installed with explosive detecting stuff. Like if someone could just walk onto the bomb with literally the entire ship with a bomb, like they would know. But so I guess maybe that's a way of exploring, and that is a thing, and maybe kind of even a red herring where it's sounding like it could be a bomb detector, but
Right.
maybe it's not a bomb. We'll
Right.
find out later. Uh, okay, because there's a couple other things going on with this story. Very notably, we have uh, finally being after a little tease last episode, finally being integrated into the story. Deanna Troy, another absolute favorite of mine, and she brings her unique, wit and sensibilities to this story. But it starts in a pretty dark place. Like if you recall, Troy is, being held by the enemy right now.
Right. Yeah. Both Troy and Riker are being held by the enemy, and I thought that it was pretty touching. A lot of the interaction between them, and it was very it gave a lot of exposition on stuff that to catch people up to understand, like why was Will like, out gallivanting with Picard,
Right, right.
when he had a family at home.
Yeah, he's been through some stuff since he saw her last time.
Right.
The old Riker charm.
Yeah.
And so basically the changelings have been torturing Troy, which just stopping right there, it's pretty horrifying when you think about it.
Right.
She's just sitting there getting tortured in front of her husband. But yes, so like as she was being tortured off camera, he gave up what they thought was something important, but turned out to be a compromised code,
Right.
and which would actually alert Picard and company of where they are.
Yeah. I mean, although she looked pretty good for being tortured. I mean, he didn't look that great, but
Yeah. Yeah, they actually, good point. She did not play the part as someone who had just been tortured.
Right.
She played it as with their, customary wit and charm. Maybe the actress was just like so hard trying to get into the head of that old role that she didn't factor in the fact that this person was supposed to have just been tortured.
Right.
We get really into the nitty gritty of their relationship and everything that's been going on with their family. Like apparently Troy, after the death of their son, she used her empathic powers to what she considered numb the pain that Riker felt over the death of their son. Riker doesn't feel that way. He feels like she did something invasive and really tried to rob him of his memory of the dead son. And there definitely some heartfelt, like it felt like something a real couple would say.
Yeah, I mean, it also like made me think about consent issues,
Mm-hmm.
and the ethical use of her powers.
Oh yeah, in a universe where empaths and telepaths are real,
Yeah.
that takes the whole consent thing to a whole different level, huh?
Yeah.
And just as they're exploring these kind of things, we have like a changeling that's about to go mess them up. Then all of a sudden, what is that? Like a sword pops through the other
Yeah,
side
the
of
curliff.
and then. So what do you think about the fact that they're getting rescued by Worf, and
Right.
he not only does he stabs then phases the changeling.
I mean, he's a belt and suspenders kind of dude. He's
Okay.
making sure.
Fair enough. And like right away, right after he's rescuing them, things get a little personal with Troy and Worf.
Oh yeah. I thought that was so hilarious. I mean, he was so heartfelt. The way Michael Dorn delivered those lines, it was awesome.
It really was. Yeah, he hasn't missed a beat. But there's even more shenanigans going on with these folks because if you recall from our last episode, that the beautiful crew decided that it would be a great idea to bring one half of a murderous, genocidal maniac and onto the Titan and apparently plug him right into the mainframe with a glowing wire.
Yeah, we go back to Data and Lore, or or it would be what is it, Daystrom DM 510. Yeah.
Yeah, and we see a scene with Jordy unplugging him, being like, "Oh, you're not gonna do this anymore. Why didn't you guys do that sooner? You didn't think about." I mean, geez, why'd plug him in to begin with? But then again, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole again.
Right.
So they decide, with all the chips down, like there's this partition that's separating Data and Lore's personality, and with everything as it is, they really don't have any other options but to lower that partition.
Yeah, after Picard and Beverly and them get there, I think that when it seems like that's the only way they can get the ship back.
Yeah, I mean,
he's their only hope.
It's a Hail Mary,
Yeah.
Data could win, but just as equal, Lore could totally overwrite Data. And after they raise the partition, that seems to be what's going on. But I think appearances can't be deceiving.
Most definitely, I think that we have to remember. I mean, because Geordi points out that Data can't act violently against Lore. It's against what his programming. And I think that the technique that Data uses is, it's indicative of that restriction, and how, he finds ways to work around, those things.
Absolutely. He's very crafty. We see what appears to be Data overriding Lore and Lore overriding Data, excuse me, and Data in a form of surrender and submission seems to be just piecemeal giving away all his memories.
Right. And it comes from it also kind of reinforces that whole thing about the positivity of love, because he's like, I've had everything, you've had nothing, so let me give you all of myself. And in doing so, by taking and receiving that, and Lore making it a part of himself, he becomes more Data-ish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we get to see a great cameo by Spot.
Yes.
Even though I'm sure it's not the original Spot.
No, probably not.
But definitely the character of Spot in some form or fashion is in this episode.
Yes. And that was, as Data said, the best of him.
Yeah, so somehow by giving him all this stuff, Data's code or something gets into Lore.
Right, because, and I think it has, if we go back and we look at the whole Spot thing.
Okay.
Because he says that, Spot taught him how to love. So by accepting Spot, and you saw that, Lore was very eager to take Spot, and he was holding Spot, and he was, he was totally, going with that. And that was the last key. He learned to love. And then that's how he was defeated.
Yes.
Through the power of love.
Yes, through the power of love, Data takes over Lore from the inside.
Right.
And just totally, basically assimilates him into his programming.
Exactly.
And Data wins the day. And then he wakes up and he takes the ship back over in the name of Starfleet. And he kicks Changeling ass. They get hold of Rafi and Worf and Riker and Troy. And they all come aboard and help kick ass.
Yeah.
And,
The thing about that, I do have some issues here with the whole Rafi. I mean, she's one of my favorite characters, but it made no sense with her fighting the changelings with the knives.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're changelings.
Right.
And how come they weren't acting like changelings? I mean, granted, they are this new type of changeling, but, I mean, I guess we don't know the limits of them. They can change from one... maybe it takes them a long time to change forms. I don't know. I mean...
Well, good point, but I think that it comes down to more of just maybe like a money type of budget limitation where they
Right.
don't. Because you're right, I would like, and I've thought about this before. There's a lot of missed opportunities to like use the changeling powers for both visually and like good storytelling
Yeah.
uses. That like I there's like points when Vatic would go to pull in her ear when she was making like a dramatic point during her monologue where she could have just like
Right.
stretched it out and do a bunch of goo. I thought,
Right.
but I think that's even better point. Like these changelings could have just been like Clayface from Batman and got a giant fucking axe coming out of their hand and
Right.
chop you in
Yeah.
half.
Exactly.
Like that was within the changelings' powers. So it is kind of disappointing to see them just kind of the fact that changelings almost being the like a background gimmick or something,
Right.
you know. But if I had to guess, it would be budget constrictions. But I mean, that's still no excuse. People, come on, this show you think would have the funding to be able to pull that off.
Well, that makes me want to see how they're gonna do Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, but that has Marvel money behind it, so
That's true, but still, that'll like set the bar.
yeah, they're definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Jack's plan finally coming to fruition because it turned out that that was not indeed a bomb. That was a force field generator.
Right.
And Data sucks Vatic out into space. They open up some kind of hatch on the bridge and suck everyone out into the cold vacuum of space.
Yeah.
And where she shatters upon the helm of her own ship.
Yeah. To thousands of small pieces.
Yep, so perhaps that would be the end of her, but with changelings, you never really know.
Right. So, but, with 7 to 9, saying fire and them blowing up the strike, all that plasma and protoplasm. But you never know.
Yeah. Definitely seems, it seems like we've, put a pin in the final chapter of Vatic and her little part of this changeling conspiracy. But the other changelings are still out there. The game is not over yet.
Yeah, 7 to 9 look really pissed off.
So we get a more kind of a calm. I wouldn't say calm after the storm necessarily, but a reflective kind of set of moments after they get the ship back from the changelings, but Troy says there's an all-consuming darkness on the ship.
Right. And then when they're all together, they have to talk about the elephant in the room. And I mean the all-consuming darkness. But when they did get together, it was good to see them together.
Yeah, absolutely. And they kind of have like this little reunion scene where they all get together in the ready room. Data's back,
Right.
back in business. And it does, for the first time in a long time, feel like the old original Next Generation.
Yeah, they got the band back together. And it was cool to see that Worf in a Starfleet uniform with 4 captain's pips.
Absolutely. It's great to see that they all have ranks.
Right. There was it was Beta Cannon that he took over, and he was the captain of the Enterprise E.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Worf?
Yeah,
Nice.
Worf. Yeah, but now they're on the Enterprise F being decommissioned sometime soon. So we'll see how that plays out or whatever. But the whole he had his whole baldric back. I wonder, like, where does he keep that stuff? Or maybe he just probably replicated it.
Yeah, definitely. So Troy not very happy. She knows that the changeling's plan has to do with Jack. She knows about the voice being ancient and weak. A lot of very cryptic stuff here. A lot of what I'm assuming is foreshadowing for the next episode or two. I mean, there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah, I mean, like, I had been thinking that it was the Borg, but then the whole thing about being ancient and weak, and then the red eyes, that makes me think Par-Wraiths. So it would be interesting. I mean, I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out. The whole thing with the visuals, with the red door at the end of the corridor, with the vines and stuff going towards it. It was very reminiscent. It kind of reminded me of like Doctor Who or I think you said like X-Files,
Yeah,
X-File-ish.
yeah, something definitely creepy, something mysterious.
Yeah, something sinister.
Yeah, something like lurking underneath the surface. But another very noteworthy thing I feel like was that they this on in this reunion scene they kind of touched on Data's other death too, which I felt was one of the most dramatic and memorable moments from season one of Picard. Something I'm glad they obviously did. But I don't feel like they would have glanced over it, but Picard asks that uncomfortable question of like about the whole because it was basically almost like a assisted suicide that
Yeah.
Picard helped like Data's program do in some like little computer they had him stuck in.
Right.
So, but they said no, no. Of course, this version of Data is very happy to be alive and kicking.
Yeah, he seems to be. I mean, he's enjoying. He's making jokes.
Yeah, he's feeling old. He's having neck pains and
yeah,
stuff.
and enjoying the neck pains.
Yeah, it means I'm human.
That's right.
So we close out this action-packed episode with Troy and Jack having a one-on-one.
Yeah.
More cryptic stuff about a red door.
Right.
And a very mysterious ending. So it leads us to believe that, have some interesting episodes ahead of us. The penultimate episode is next week. I am very much on Crusher watch right now. I want to see Wesley. I want to see them close out, the whole Traveler storyline. Maybe actually make it relevant.
Yeah. I mean, it would be, that would be building on, last season, his showing up in season 2. And,
one of the best parts of season 2, if you ask me.
Right, and since, we really don't know much about these travelers and how they go through time and space and whatever, so, yeah, it'd be totally cool.
Yeah, something. Any other things you could think of that you want from these next 2 episodes?
I'm really happy to find out, what the deal is with Jack. I mean, because they stretched it, it's now, we're ready for episode 9. There's only 10 episodes, and the reveal of the true big bad, like what was like I don't think that was a changeling on her hand or whatever. I don't know. That was just weird.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely have a lot that I'm looking forward to seeing. Mostly just hope that Fleet does tie back into some other kind of Star Trek lore. They could just be pulling something new out of their ass, but I would rather see it have something to do with like you said, maybe the Prophets or something that's already been referenced significantly in some other kind of Star Trek show. But we'll just have to see. I liked this episode more than the last one. Still I'm a little bit like I do wish they would just kind of come on with it with the Jack stuff. They're milking it a little, and I don't want to say I'm losing interest, but I'm growing impatient.
Yeah,
I'm growing impatient now. But I'm hopefully if it's a good payoff, it'll be worth it. The downside is though if it's not a satisfying payoff, I will feel cheated.
Yeah, true.
But very excited to see the next 2 episodes, and I feel like generally it was a really good episode. Probably not as much of less like individual standout scenes than perhaps the first couple episodes, but still strong showing, very good acting, and very memorable scenes.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess that'll close us out for another edition of the Legends of Lore broadcast. Like, follow, and subscribe. Stay tuned to everything we have coming out, and keep it real.
Yep. Peace.